Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraful anbiya wa mursaleen. Sayyidina wa habibina al-Mustafa. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa salam. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. Okay, so welcome to this will be week 9 in chronological order. Inshallah, the book we're doing, Safinatun Naja, which is called the Ship of Salvation, and it's a basic primer in Shafi'i fiqh, inshallah. So we reached up to, excuse me, how's everyone doing, first of all? Health, wealth, knowledge of self.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay,
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so we left off on the sunnah way to perform a ritual bath, and then we talked about the conditions of wudhu or 10, which is Islam, the having tamyiz, being clean from menstruation and postnatal bleeding, being free from that which prevents the water from reaching the skin, no barriers. Nothing should be on the limb that would change the qualities of water. Knowledge of his wudhu being obligatory, meaning that you have to know that before you pray, that the knowledge you have to make wudhu. Not to assume the fard obligatory acts as sunnah. And pure water that is pure and purifying. Water that is tahir and tahur, purifying. And also knowing the entering of the time of salat. And then there was a special condition about if a person continually remains in a state of impurity, like if they can't hold it, like what they call it, incontinence, that they should basically, they should kind of like wait until right at the actual time to make wudu. All right, so there's another thing too. Anybody got anything from the last time we had class that they wanted to discuss or? Okay.
I had a question the other day, but I forgot
Okay.
what it was. I didn't write it down.
Okay.
If it comes to me, I'll raise my hand.
Okay, inshallah. So I got something. Let me see. I gotta find it now. Okay, so the question that you asked, Sister Aziza, and that was my homework assignment. If a person dies of a heart attack, will they be considered a martyr? And I asked one of my teachers, he said, no, that's not the same thing. And the only thing may be an exception if it's like sudden death. And because one of the narrations in the hadith mentions about sudden death being among the categories of the people who die from sickness being considered the shuhada. And I think it was something else I was supposed to, I know Sister Zakaria ain't gonna let me forget it. I can't remember what it was, but I did get that question answered.
Oh, I think you answered my question.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my question was answered last time.
Okay, so okay, we did that, the 10 conditions of wudu for the validity of it. And so now we're on this section of the factors that nullify the wudu, inshallah. That's what we'll cover today. And so that's on page 34 in the book. And so we'll cover with the nullifiers of the wudu, excuse me, and also the forbidden acts for a person in a state of minor impurity, major impurity, and the woman who is in a state of haidh or menstruation. Okay, so let's read through the text real quick. If anybody wants to volunteer, starting from page 34. The section, the factors that nullify the wudu are 4.
I'll read it.
Okay.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The factors that nullify the wudhu are four. Anything that exists from either the front or the rear private parts, whether wind or anything else, except semen. Two, loss of intellect through sleep or other causes except sleep while firmly seated on the ground. Three, skin to skin contact between an adult, non mahram, marriageable,
Mahram.
mahram, marriageable, male and female without any barrier. Number four, touching the private parts of a human with the palm or inner surface of the fingers.
Okay. Okay, so and then you read the next section. If anybody else wants to read, or if not, you can continue, Sister Zakaria. That's on
Assalamu
page.
alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on page 36 now.
Okay, no problem. I could read.
Do you
Okay.
got the book or you got the PDF?
I got the book.
Oh, it's page 22 on the book.
Okay.
The book. Alrighty, 22.
The
Okay.
PDF ain't PDFing, I guess.
No, I can't follow that PDF the way I want to.
Okay.
We old school. We like the real book in our hand, you know?
Yeah, me too. But when I could take a PDF, I take because the books start costing a lot.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hmm.
So where were we?
On the section of forbidden actions for a person in the state of minor impurity. That section there.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When I speak, it's an echo.
Say it again.
While I'm speaking, there's an echo.
Okay, I don't know why that is. You have a Bluetooth on or something?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't hear,
the echo.
I don't hear any echo when you speak.
Well, I don't want to read it if there's an echo.
No, we don't hear echo. I don't think. I don't hear one.
I hear it.
Yeah, they hear it.
Well, let me see if I mute my mic and you can. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Try it now.
Assalamu alaikum. Is y'all hear the echo now?
No.
All right.
No, I don't.
All right. The forbidden actions for a person in the state of minor impurity in need of wudu are four. Salah, tawaf, touching or carrying the Quran. The forbidden actions for a person in the state of major impurity in need of ritual bath are six. Salah, tawaf, touching, carrying or reciting the Quran, and to remain in the masjid. The forbidden actions for a person in the state of menstruation are 10. Salat, tawaf, touching or carrying the Quran, to remain in the masjid, reciting the Quran, fasting, divorce, to pass through the masjid for a woman who thinks her blood might soil the masjid, and to take sexual pleasures from what is between the navel and the knees. Keep going. We can't hear you.
Oh, I had my mute on. No, that was good.
Right.
I started talking. Yeah. So no, those are the from that sections. Those two sections are what we're going to cover today, inshallah.
Okay.
Okay. So let me get my my little stuff together. Okay. All right.
What class is this?
This is class number 9.
Okay.
Okay, let me get my stuff together here. All right. Yeah, so this week and then next week, and we will have, then the following week after that is going to be the conference in Atlantic City, which is Friday and Saturday, but we'll still have our class on Sunday. And then there's one more week after that, but we're going to take a break during Ramadan, unless you all want to do it during Ramadan. we could take a vote. I think it's something you could.
I think it'll be easier for you, right? Because you're usually, I remember last year you're so busy that we didn't really have, we was thinking about it with our last class around this time and you didn't have time to do it. So I think it'd
Yeah,
probably be easier on your, physical, your health, self,
knowledge of self. Okay, mashallah. Okay, let me get this screen together. Yeah, it would definitely be easier. This year, inshallah, we're going to have Imam Naeem's son, Uthman. He's going to be with us. He's going to be leading us in the Taraweeh prayer during Ramadan. So it's a little break for me, but then that frees me up where I got to do more stuff, other than, so yeah, this ain't no,
mashallah.
yeah, so alhamdulillah. Okay, let me, okay, slideshow from current slide. Okay. All right, wait for it to show up. Okay. All right, there you go. So the nullifiers of wudhu, he mentions that the factors that nullify the wudhu are four. We already read through those things. Anything that exits from the front or back, or the front or the rear, private parts, whether wind or anything else, except semen, loss of intellect through sleep or other causes, except sleep while firmly seated on the ground, skin-to-skin contact between adult, non-mahram, marriageable person, a male or female without any barrier. All right, so let's discuss that, inshallah. Oh, and number four, touching the private parts of a human with the palm or inner surface of the fingers. So I had to crop this according to how the book was. All right, let's go. So the discussion, inshallah. So the first one, anything that exits from the front or back except semen, which is mani. All right, so mani is the semen that comes from an emission, or ejaculation, which is different from the pre-seminal fluid and other stuff like that, right? So now that's the only thing that if that happens, then that requires ghusl, because when ejaculation, that is a major impurity, all right, which is called janabah. And so here he mentioned both normal and not normal things that come from the front and back. So for instance, a person who they might have stones that come out. I think this what's those, not gallstones, but what's the other stones?
Kidney stone.
Kidney stones,
Yeah,
yeah.
kidney stones. So these things, them coming out is not, because they're not really considered impurities, right? So a person, if they were to come out and there was no anything else, like no fluid or anything, and if a person was in wudu, that wouldn't break their wudu, right? Even though it's not a normal thing, all right? But anything that exits from the front and back is considered, where you have to make wudu. So normally it's when you're passing gas, number one or number two, and sometimes other people have other things that happen, all right? So anything that exits, right? But that thing about the stones is like an exception, not something that occurs all the time. Okay, the second thing is what's called, here he mentioned about sleeping. There's a difference between, being sleep and sinai. So sinai is like drowsiness. And so drowsiness is when you are kind of not in a complete state, but you're on your way to sleep, right? And so that's an exception. And so anything else where you lose consciousness, that is a nullifier of your wudu, right? So if a person goes into deep sleep, and the signs of it is usually people are snoring, or they don't know what happened, that they're not conscious of what happened. All right, somebody had a question?
Yes. So
Is there-
daydreaming falls under this particular category, the
No,
Sina.
no, yeah. See, I forget the term for daydreaming, but yeah, that doesn't break your wudu. But see, not because you're not really daydreaming when you're in. You're not drowsy when you're daydreaming. You're just like in a blank state, and it doesn't last that long. But see, not drowsiness is when you really kind of halfway in and halfway out, but you still have some consciousness, right? So what breaks it will do is being actually asleep. So some of the signs are like like lying down, snoring, stuff like that. And you know, some of y'all be having buzzsaws, you know. Just joking. All right, the next thing is he mentioned skin to skin contact. So meaning skin to skin, not skin to hair or skin to something else, actual skin to skin contact between man and a woman. And here he means man and a woman, adults. And so adults may vary, you know, according. So technically in Islam, you become an adult when you reach taklif, or you become mukallaf. If touching skin to skin like that, even where the potential of sexual desire is present or not. And so, for instance, if a person, before they become mukallaf, if they if there's a sexual desire there, then that will break the wudhu, right? Ajnabi, which is means strangers or people who are non-mahram, right? So a mahram is someone who is related to you, whom you could never marry because of blood relations, you know, like your father, brother, stuff like that. And so it's okay to touch them, but someone who is strangers, you cannot touch them with your hands, right, without a barrier, right? And so that's someone who is ajnabi, someone you can marry. That includes cousins and spouses. Touching spouses without a barrier is also considered breaking your wudu in the Shafi'i school. In the Shafi'i school, right?
And
So it's
just to clarify, it doesn't matter where you touch them. It's skin to skin.
yeah,
Like your
skin
palm.
to
The skin part is the palm, right? Is it
yeah,
is when it's skin to skin, we're speaking of the palm that has to touch a particular part
yes,
of another.
yes.
Okay.
And so it's between man and woman. And so man to man touching, it doesn't apply. Woman to woman touching, it doesn't apply. And then there's also a rule in the Shafi'i school that it will be upon the person who does the touching. Their wudu is the one that will be broken. It's not a major opinion, but it's one that exists. So if a man touches a woman with his hand, he breaks his wudu, but she doesn't necessarily break her wudu, right? So, somebody had a question?
Yeah, I had a question. So when you say touch, you mean just like regular touch, like if I touch the man's arm or something? Like you mean by that, or you mean like
Yes, skin to skin contact,
okay.
skin to skin. All right. So if someone has clothes on, that's a barrier, right? That's a barrier. Okay. And so I'm hitching
One
here
more
cousins,
question with that.
huh?
So, one more question with that. So, if you were to be quote unquote what we call spooning, right, with your person, you know,
Wait,
y'all skin to
what's
skin,
spooning?
does
What's spooning?
you know, like a way that you hug each other?
Oh,
Like
okay.
basically
Cuddling, like it's
the
like
man is
cuddling.
like cuddling you from behind, mostly in the sense, so you know, you put all that on that, right? All that is there. You get what
Yes,
I'm saying?
because that's going to lead to sexual desire, arousal.
So would that warrant eventually ghusl maybe then? I mean,
No,
would you say?
ghusl will only be if there's an ejaculation, but there's pre-seminal fluid is you will wipe the part where you know where it happens, and then you just will make wudu again. But
Thank you.
no, a ghusl
But
will
what
be
if you don't? But what if you are spooning and it doesn't lead to sexual contact, sexual whatever? You
um
still got to make ghusl or wudu.
it depends. If it doesn't lead to sexual things, so there's different things about what was the intention of the touch or things like that. You know, what is intentional, unintentional. So in that circumstance, a person will have to use their best judgment.
Oh, okay.
You have to use their best judgment. So this is just the kind of like the ground rules. And then, so what's considered touching is the parts of your hand when you put them together like this. The parts that you can't see that's what's considered the touch. So you can see the backhand. If you touch somebody like this on their shoulder or something, that's not considered touching. But if you touch someone with the palm and the inside of the fingers, like you put it like that, everything that you can't see, that's considered was for touching. Go, you had a question, sis?
Can you can you explain the importance of the palm, the inner palm versus the outer part of the palm?
Mm,
Because you just said that if the outer part of my palm touches someone, I didn't, my wudu is not nullified. But if
mhm,
I flip it around and my inside touches someone, then it is.
mhm.
I'm just guess I'm trying to understand what's the difference. Like, why does the inside matter more than the outer part?
I don't know, but I was just looking at something because that came up. But there's like some secrets about the inner side of your hand, you know, the palms of your hands and the lines and stuff like that. Not saying that palm reading is okay, but there is something spectacular about it. There's a video I was watching a little bit of it. I'll share it with you all. Just how the inside of your hand is made up and the touches and all that stuff, you know. So I don't know specifically the difference between the inner and the outer, but the inner has a special, you know, even, you know, if you didn't know these rules, if someone touched you with their palm and they touch you with the backhand, it even has a different feel. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I have to find out
Yeah,
some more about that.
yeah.
But
It does have
it's
a different feeling.
I definitely would like to know because when you just said that, it got me to thinking about tasawwuf. You know what I'm saying? Like it has something to do. You know what I'm saying? Like some type of connection or something like that in
yeah,
some
it
kind of
could, yeah,
way.
it's definitely is something deeper, but I don't know the specifics. But we can find out, inshallah. Or somebody else had a question? No? Okay. So those are the things that will nullify your wudu. Exiting from front to back. Oh, so we got another part, inshallah. Um, so did we? I don't know if I put the part in there about sleeping. Oh, so in the Shafi'i school, if a person is sitting upwards with their backside firmly planted, uh, you know, and if they had drowsiness or fell asleep, that wouldn't break their wudu. Now it has to be the condition that their backside is firmly planted on their seat. So if someone is saying sitting in the chair and they have their feet up, right? That necessarily wouldn't count. So it's basically like sitting up in an upright position, usually on the floor, or you're in a chair and you just, you know, say you sitting like this and you just nod off. And you know, if you just wake up and be like, oh, your wudu is still valid. Your wudu that's in the Shafi school. I don't know about the other schools. If anybody knows, they can relate it. All right. And there's some I'm trying to think of the word. There's some science behind these things too. You know, we might not know right offhand, but you know, if they were to study these things, you know, there's some science connected to it. You know, not that we need science to validate what our scholars have said, but just as discussion. All right. So the forbidden acts without the wudu is the first. That's the next section. The forbidden actions for a person in the state of minor impurity, which would they would need wudu for these things. It would be forbidden for these to do these things. So the first one is the salat. The second one is tawaf, going around the Kaaba, and touching or carrying the Quran, which could have been one, but they make it distinct here for a reason, inshallah. So these are the four things that a person, they cannot do these things unless they have wudu. All right. So let's go to the next slide. And so when we talk about minor impurity, the term is called hadath. And so when you do what's called raf ul hadath, lifting the impurities, hadath, what happens when something exits from the front of the back, as we just discussed, except for semen, which will require a ghusl. All right. So if a person passes gas or, you know, urinates, or number two, no, of course, if they pass gas or anything, they would do is, you know, istinja, you know, wipe themselves with water. And of course, when you urinate, you will use water, inshallah ta'ala. So these are minor impurities, right? And so when you have these minor impurities, you cannot do those things. You cannot offer the salat. So you have to make wudu. He mentioned tawaf. And so tawaf, when you are making Hajj or Umrah, when you go around the Kaaba, you know, there's a lot of people that it would almost be impossible for a person to not touch, like for someone to touch someone, you know, that would be ajnabi, that would be a stranger for them, or someone that would be allowed for them to marry. And so here, when you're doing tawaf in the Shafi'i school, that's one of the conditions that breaks your wudu. During that time, it's suspended because, you know, if you make a tawaf and you touch somebody, you know, you might have to put somebody up or something. In the Shafi'i school, you would break your wudu, but in this case, you would just continue because it would be too much of a difficulty. All right. And so that's one of the wisdoms of following the four schools, is that not that you just pick and choose what you want from the school, but you know that there is what's the word I'm looking for? There's rukhsas, there's dispensations to give you you know, to give you a way out. All right. Go ahead. You had a question, sis?
Yes, is that why they have the gloves? Do you know what I'm talking about when you see the women? I only see them wearing it during Eid though.
What's that now?
Eid, like the gloves that you see the Muslim they wear.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the reason? One of the reasons why, for the protection of the barrier. You know what I'm saying? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
would
that
that
might.
be something that's permissible in Shafi'i as well?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah. But you know, just I think it's probably directed towards more the men, but yeah, the women will wear gloves just to safeguard themselves, you know. Alhamdulillah, Allah knows best. But in that instance, you wouldn't have to, that wouldn't break your wudu if you touch somebody with your palm or your inner fingers. Okay. So salat, tawaf, here he said touching the Quran or carrying the Quran. And so touching, he meant here the touching or carrying the actual mushaf, you know, the actual Quran. And so that's the Quran with the all Arabic in it. And so the exceptions that's here or other books that might have Quran along with some tafsir, or the Quran along with English, that might be an exception. Or when carrying other books along with the mushaf, you know, so say if you have a bag and you have mushaf and you have other books in there. In that case, if you're in the state of hadath, you can carry those books, but you know, not actually touch them. And then I've heard views about devices carry the same thing. Like if you have an iPhone or an Android, do anybody still have Androids anymore? I shouldn't make fun of
Don't
Androids.
be a hater. I'm
No,
Team Joy to the day I
they,
die.
they start
And
making.
guess what? Y'all look cheap iPhone, expensive but cheap.
No, I'm no. To be honest, iPhones are overrated. I was an Androidian for a long time, and then my family kind of convinced me because they said they got tired. They got tired of seeing the little green bubbles and stuff when I would do text messages. So they said, you know. So, but you know, but when you carry a device and it has a Quran on it, which most of us do, or some type of iPad, that's not the same thing as it could be the mushaf, but you're carrying it because it's not exclusively the mushaf. So here we're saying touching or carrying the Quran is the actual mushaf, right?
And the mushaf is only Arabic.
The
Only
mushaf is only
Arabic.
Arabic, yes.
If it has the transliteration and a translation in it, it is not the mushaf.
Right. And so, yeah, I'm trying to find one. I don't have it. Yeah, so
With
that's
the
the discussion.
devices, question about that.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if we're going to get to this next, but I'll probably be jumping the gun. So with the devices, okay, so like for a women or some people have a ritual, right, that they do every single morning. Like for me, I always, when I get up, I don't know if it's okay or not, but don't judge me. But while I'm in the bathroom, you know, most people take their phones in the bathroom. They say we shouldn't because of this and blah, blah, blah. But I take my phone in the bathroom, and what I normally do is I always read my daily verse on one of my Islamic apps, and it always has like the Quranic verse. But I don't read it out loud. I read it to myself. Is there something wrong with that? I
I
mean,
would,
like, should I not be doing that? I mean, it's something that
yeah,
I've always done.
I would avoid it. I would avoid it because the bathrooms is places of, you know, just places of filth, you know. So I would avoid it, even though if you don't recite it out loud. I would avoid it.
Okay.
Yeah. Go in there and use the bathroom and come out. I remember this meme a while ago. It was a it was it was an older man and a dude in the bathroom, and so the young boy was in there like posing with his phone and fixing his hair, and the old dude was washing his hands and looking at him. And so the caption said, "In my day, we used the bathroom for taking the dump, right?" So he looking at him like, "I don't know what's wrong with y'all kids these days. The bathroom is for everything else." Yeah, but I would avoid it because doing that is kind of a sacred kind of thing. You don't do that in the bathroom.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
So I didn't get in trouble before then, right?
Yeah, you didn't know, so
Okay.
it's,
Okay.
not knowing is an excuse, but not learning is not an excuse. Okay, so here they make the distinction between touching the mushaf and carrying it, right? So you can't do it, and you will do it. But if you have devices, because if you have like a phone that has all these other things, so it's not exclusively the mushaf that you're reading from, so you can carry it, and you can carry it. All right. Any questions on that? Okay, I'll go to the next slide. And so forbidden acts in a state of janabah, which is major impurity, which comes from, let's go. The forbidden acts for a person in a state of major impurity, which requires a ghusl or 6. And so we covered uh, 4 of them here. And the first one, that's the same as when a person is in the state of hadath, minor impurity, and then it's 2 more added. So salat, tawaf, touching and carrying the Quran. And here is added reciting the Quran and to remain in the masjid. And so this was in the state of janabah. All right. And so recall that janabah is a major impurity which comes from the emission of semen, haidh when the woman's on the menses, nifas, postnatal bleeding, wilada, childbirth, and maut. Of course, maut wouldn't really count because if you're dead, you're dead, right? But there is a state of janabah for the person who's died, and then, as we mentioned in the class prior, the obligation on the one who alive to remove the state of janabah from them. So you have to give ghusl to a person that passes, right? All right. So in these states of janabah, these things are forbidden: the salat, tawaf, touching, reciting, and carrying the Quran. And so the other 2 things we mentioned about the actual Quran, and so the mushaf or writing or reciting from memory. So the reciting the actual Quran, even from memory in the Shafi'i school, it is forbidden when you're in the state of janabah, right? And the exception that they make is for Quranic du'as, right? Or for some words that are considered du'a that are not complete ayahs, like you say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Go ahead, you had a question, sis?
So you're saying the exception for a woman on her menses, she can, I mean, because I don't know, I was at a retreat, and so I couldn't pray. I was, blah blah blah. And so the lady was just like, "Well, you can't make salat, but you can still wudu." The sheikha said I could still wudu and I can still dhikr while they make salah. So that is still okay. That's
Yeah,
basically what you just said, right?
yeah.
Dhikr
But
is
you said
okay.
dhikr. When you said dhikr, were you doing just a regular dhikr or just?
Yeah, like la ilaha illallah,
Yeah, that's
subhanallah.
because that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not Quran. Even though those statements are found in the Quran, it's not actual Quran. All right. Go ahead.
So
Go
if
ahead.
I was to recite like they have dua from Quran, the dua of Ibrahim, the dua of Musa alayhi salam, I can't recite that in that particular state either after
No,
dhikr.
those are the exceptions. The du'as that
Okay.
you make, Rabbana atina for dunya, because the wisdom of it is that du'a can be made at any time. So that can't that doesn't stop a person from making du'a. So and those verses are Quranic du'as that you can recite them.
Okay. And does the sunnah duas count too? Because you just put Quran.
Say it again.
The du'as of the Sunnah du'as, like the du'as that we read about in Sahih Bukhari and
Yeah,
Muslim.
no, you can recite those as
Okay.
well. You can recite those as well. All right, Lady, you had a question?
Yeah, um so like for when a woman is on her menses, she's not allowed to recite even from memory or read from the Mus'haf, right? So that applies, like, even, okay, for example, even if like that woman is like a Quran student or she's trying to do her revision, she can't do any like recitation or revision or anything. Like, what if like, not saying it would, but like, what if, okay, her not reciting for a week caused her maybe to forget a portion of the Quran or something? Does that still apply, or like, how does
No,
that work?
we're going to cover that because in here they cover a section specifically for haidh, for menstruation. And so this is in general when the person is in the state of janabah. So this is for just for men and women, right? And
Okay.
we're going to cover the next section about menstruation. All right. All right. And so then there's also like other views about this, about reciting from memory. In general, for in these states that a person shouldn't do it except for Quran and du'as, and Allah knows best. And so we're going to cover in the next section about what you just mentioned. All right. And so the only two things here that's added to the salat, tawaf, and touching and carrying the Quran is reciting the Quran and staying in the masjid. For instance, during i'tikaf, a person shouldn't stay in the masjid, shouldn't do i'tikaf if they're in the state of janabah, or hanging around outside of the salat times. So there are people who come to the masjid, just to hang out. If they're in the state of janabah, they shouldn't do it. Okay, question?
Yes. So okay, so when I go to the masjid, like, I see all the time, I have to walk past the brothers section to get to the sister section in my masjid, and the brothers literally they're like always just like a crowd right in front of the door to get into the masjid. Their door, obviously, but I have to go through this big large crowd. So you're saying that that's not permissible. They shouldn't be hanging around, because I'm quite sure some of them might have went to the restroom after Juma, Salah, things like that. So they're not considered no longer pure unless they wudu, which 9 out of 10, some people
No,
just
but
don't, right?
going to the
But so
restroom is a minor impurity. So they can hang around that state. You don't have to be in wudu to be in the masjid. But if you're in a state where you had like a wet dream or from sexual intercourse, you can't be around in that state. But you can be around the masjid in the state of not being in wudu.
But is it okay? So is there an exception for the woman too regarding her menses being in the around the masjid?
Yeah, we're going to cover that in the next part.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Is this clear so far for everybody, or? And so here in the state of janabah, there's two things. There's 6 total things that are forbidden when a person's in that state. And then the next one, forbidden acts during the haidh or the menstruation. And so this is specifically for women, of course. I don't know. I know we live in these times where, yeah, Latif, but this is for men and women. I don't care what these people say. It is men and women. That's one thing I like about Trump that he said. It's 2 genders.
Yeah, that's true. I do it
Yeah,
like that.
that deserved a round of applause. Okay, forbidden acts during menstruation. So we already have, and so here we have the salat, tawaf, touching or carrying the Quran, remaining in the masjid, reciting the Quran, fasting, divorce, to pass through the masjid for a woman who thinks her blood might soil the masjid, and to take sexual pleasure from what is between the navel and the knees. All right, so we'll discuss this part now. And so this should answer the questions that you and Layla had, inshallah. Okay. So here, permission to recite. So in haidh, a woman is allowed to recite in haidh. But after her haidh, at the time when her menstruation comes to an end, she's in the state of that janazah. And at that point, she has to perform ghusl before she can she has to perform ghusl before she can do those other things. So this time during haidh is, so Layla, this is what you were answering. So this is makes it easier for when a woman is on her cycle and she wants to review, she still wants to do things, she can do it, right? So it's an exception, but after the haidh, you're in a state of janabah until you make a ghusl. And so during that time, right after, like say if you come off your menses and then that time where before you make your ghusl, at that point, that's when the exception stops. So you will have to, make ghusl before you can do those other acts that would normally be forbidden. And so some scholars have said that this is to make it easy for women so they don't, have a long lapse in their training and recitation and stuff like that, right?
And this includes both the actual book and like the devices, the permissibility.
Yes, yes. Well, yes. No, but the book, you wouldn't be able to touch in the state of haidh, but if you're reciting from memory in this state, because in the Shafi'i school, you normally wouldn't recite if you're in this state, but they make an exception. They make an exception specifically for haidh, right? So janabah is haidh, nifas, wilada, all of those things, but specifically for the menstrual cycle, right?
Got you.
Okay. So the other thing is fasting, and as you all know, the days have to be made up. And so when a woman, when she misses prayers on her cycle, she doesn't have to make them up, but the fasting days must be made up. And it's a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't get frustrated if you enter your cycle during Ramadan. And I know my wife used to get upset. I don't want to make days up, but it's just a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasting is forbidden. So talaq is divorce that is pronounced by the man, and even if a woman cannot be divorced when she's on her menstrual cycle, but if a man pronounces divorce on her, the talaq is still valid, but the man is sinful for doing it. So for instance, if a woman is on her cycle and the man doesn't know she's on her cycle, and he say, "I divorce you," and it's forbidden to do that while she's on the cycle, and if he doesn't know, he is sinful, but the talaq that he pronounced is still valid. And so this is also indication to stay away from talaq and all of these things, unless it really reaches that point. It shouldn't reach the point of talaq because someone didn't fulfill something, or someone pissed you off, or things that happen because of an emotional thing, And so if a man does it, because men hasty too, oh, you want a divorce? Okay, I grant you divorce.
Maybe you should teach a course on that.
Huh?
I said maybe you should teach a course on, reasonings for using talaq, because I've been in like sister circles and I've heard some horror stories regarding the usage of it.
Yeah, and it's very yeah, so this is why the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith that the most lawful thing that's most hated to Allah is divorce. And so really it should be the absolute last resort and not the first thing that we draw on because of because of the current situation, right? So talaq is forbidden, and so the khula is like divorce, so it's the same ruling. So a woman shouldn't ask for a khula when she's on her cycle. And so passing through the masjid or being in the masjid, if there's no fear, so the exception would be if no fear of blood is coming through, it is permissible to pass through the masjid. And so normally, when you talk about the time for being in the masjid, was for if a woman feared that she was soiled on masjid or something like that. And this also includes like chairs and stuff that most places have chairs where women can sit on. And so there's an exception that they can be in the masjid. Now, if we follow in the school strictly in Shafi'i fiqh, a woman shouldn't come to the masjid when she's on her menses. But if she comes, then there's the little leeway. Like if you come to the masjid and, for most sisters there, they come to, they got couches and chairs. You can come, and as long as you're not staining where the prayer is made, right? But if you sit on the couch or something, and you like some women have heavy bleeding, if there's a fear that that could, stain or soil the furniture, then you also shouldn't come at that time as well, right? And so this is also specific for the musalla area, and not necessarily like masjids. They might have a lounge area that's not the prayer area, and so that's a whole different story. So it will be allowed to come. So, for instance, if if sisters come to like Masjid Muhammad, for instance, and they have the whole the area there before you go into the musalla, that's not the same as the actual musalla, right? And even and for instance, in Masjid Muhammad, if a woman went into the musalla area, if she sat on a chair and there's no fear of any kind of like soiling or anything, then it will also be allowed for her to sit on the chair, but not on the floor. All right, is that clear?
Yes, you're saying that the woman on her menses is allowed to be in the masjid to attend, like for educational purpose, halakha, but she should not be in the prayer area, the musalla where we pray.
Yeah.
Other areas are fine, and she should leave once the halakha is done. Is that correct?
Right. So normally in the Shafi'i school, the relied upon rule is a woman shouldn't be in the masjid during her cycle. But then there's exception, because this is the beauty of fiqh. That fiqh is a way out for the worshiper. So you have these rules, and then you have exceptions to the rules based on the circumstances. And so that's why you see fiqh rulings. They're supposed to be kind of catered to the specific situation. You understand what I'm saying? So if you ask somebody who's qualified to answer questions, you ask them the question based on the actual circumstance, and not like, it shouldn't be like a scenario. You know how people ask scholars questions, well, what if this, that, and the other, and it's like a made up scenario, or it's not their actual circumstance. It should be specific for that person's situation, right? It should be specific, and then that way you get the proper ruling. Because also in the Shafi'i school and other schools, like we mentioned, that if a woman or a man touches with the palm of their hands, that will break their wudhu. But in a case like tawaf, the circumstances changes, so the ruling changes. You follow what I'm saying? So it's a way out for the worshiper, and that doesn't give a person a license to go between madhabs. It's just to make ease for the worshiper, right? Like I remember one of my teachers was telling me, he said he went to a Hanafi masjid one time, and they when the Hanafis pray, they say Allahu Akbar, they raise their hands to takbir, and then they don't do, it's called raful yadain. They don't raise their hands anymore after that. So every time they move, they just they go into positions, and they never raise their hands. They just go to positions. When in the Shafi'i school, after each movement, we raise our hands. And so he said that a way out for the Shafi'i, if you follow the Hanafi, is to follow them. Even though in our school we put our hands up after every position, then that's what's important to know, what's fard and sunnah, what's recommended in the salat, and then that's what makes things easy. So as we mentioned a couple weeks before, it is the differences in these schools of fiqh that kept them harmonized. Not where everybody had to do the same thing one way, and then if somebody does something different, then it's like it's questionable. No, it is all of these four schools having all of these different mu'tamad positions, having exceptional positions, and in the midst of that, they can all pray together, right? They can do their thing. So if you see someone praying and they're not raising their hands, you know that they're Hanafi. If you see someone who's praying and then their hands are to the side, that they're Maliki, and stuff like that. If you see someone praying with their hands a little above their navel, they're probably Hanbali, right? Or Shafi. And so all of these little things show you the beauty of the Muslim Ummah staying united, even with these different variations, right? And that's things that we appreciate. And then when you have a little in-depth study, you can take a rukhsa or a dispensation from another school. And so like the teacher said, in the Shafi school, when we begin the salat, we say the basmala out loud. Other schools, they don't say it out loud, but they still say it, right? And so there's ikhtilaf about You know, do you say the basmala? Do you start with alhamdulillah, the hamdulillah, saying alhamdulillah? These things are not issues that, you know, they keep us together because we appreciate and recognize the different views, but not where someone is praying wrong or not praying according to the sunnah and stuff like that. Some of the things that we hear, or nowadays we hear people who put prayer books together and it's supposed to be according to the most authentic hadith, and that's the only way that you can pray, like to almost undermine the thousands of years of people who prayed according to their schools, you know. Oh, you had a question, sis?
I do, but it might be a little off topic. I'm not sure. It got you got when you were saying something about the hadith. It got the hadiths that we have. It has me to thinking about something. I don't know if this is true, but I was in a session yesterday and someone mentioned that, and I hate to say this, may Allah forgive me, but I don't know. He said that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu burned 500 hadiths.
So Abu Bakr or Imam Abu Hanifa?
No, Abu Bakr burnt 500 of the hadiths during his caliphate.
Okay.
I was just like, I don't know if that's true or not. It just had me thinking about it when you were saying about the hadiths and stuff, and it just made me think about that.
And what context did this person mention that in? Like, what was the purpose?
He was trying to explain his position. Let's just say he's a Shia. So he was trying, I was in a diverse group of Muslims, and they were just all different ways, I guess you can say, put it a nice way. And he was saying that that's what he was saying. He said that he burnt 500 hadith because he remembered that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam really didn't want us to write down or preserve the hadith. He told one of the people not to write everything down. But I was like, no, the hadith I remember was saying that there was a Qurayshite told the guy not, why do you write everything down from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You remember, you know, I'm talking about that hadith. And then he told the Prophet, and the Prophet was like, no, write what I say, because, you know, everything that I say comes from, you know, basically from Allah. I'm paraphrasing. But I was just so like conflicted. I was like, I didn't have enough knowledge to say anything, so I just kind of like just sat there. But I really didn't believe that. I don't know if you ever heard that.
I never heard that, but it's possible. But then at the same time, you have all of these people. Okay, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh may have burned 500 hadith, but then you have our mother Aisha memorizing over 2,000 hadith. Jabir memorizing 1,000 something hadith. Abu Huraira, remember, I think the number was 5,000. So what is 500 compared to those, which would probably correlate with the other hadith? So, I mean, it's possible, but I mean, people have their own agenda sometimes. We just listen, and then knowing that we just have to learn things and know things and where people are coming, what kind of agenda they're coming from. So I'm not saying that it's not true, but Abu Bakr, he wasn't, even though he was the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's father-in-law and close companion, he wasn't known for hadith, right? So that tells you something as well. And then yes, some of them, they didn't want to, according to what the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, they didn't want to be guilty of saying something or doing something the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't approve of. But then they also developed one of the greatest sciences known to mankind, not just Muslims, mankind, the science of hadith, of relating these statements of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and verifying who said it with an unbroken chain. This science is so intricate that even scholars of hadith said that if a person, they said a hadith can be a source of misguidance for one who doesn't have training in it. The hadith, it can be a source of misguidance if you don't know how to do these things. If you think you can read these narrations and put them together and try to, it can overwhelm somebody. So the scholars put this stuff in place that we have the ease of even hearing the story of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq burning 500 hadiths. I mean, there were people during the time of Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, who would mix up the hadiths and with the chains. And then he would recite the hadiths. It was like, I remember it was a narration. There was 10 people with they were mixing up the chains of the hadith, and Imam Bukhari was correcting them from memory. So they were like on the scramble board on him, and he said, "No, this hadith you mentioned, this chain doesn't go with this. This is the chain." And then it was like 10 people he was in front of. So I mean, it's neither here nor there. I mean, I don't know what context they mentioned in, but it really it's neither here nor there. You know,
I think it was just a group of different Muslim beliefs, and I think we were just all discussing. I was mostly quiet. I was just kind of like a listener in because I don't really, because it was like Shia, or Sunni, and then it was like Quranian people in there.
yeah.
And it was very interesting to listen to all their perspectives, I must say. They,
Mashallah.
yeah, it was,
That
yeah.
is interesting, you know. So alhamdulillah, we take wisdom where we can find it. And so this last part with our class is sexual intercourse is this thing that's forbidden for a woman doing when she's in haidh. And it doesn't, I put this in our terms, boo loving and cuddling. I don't know if we use boo loving anymore, but and cuddling. So that's permissible during the time when a woman is on her menses.
What's boo loving?
Boo loving, you know, you boo, you know, you hugged up, you holding hands, you know, boo loving.
All right.
That's what I said. I don't know if people use it anymore, but you know.
I haven't even heard of it.
Okay. Now, you know, New York is way behind the times, Sister
You
Fahim.
telling your age,
And
you
I'll
telling
accept
your
that.
age right here.
I'll accept that. Anything
No,
you say.
no,
Imam, I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I
okay.
got your back.
Alhamdulillah.
Sister
But
Fahim,
you know, everybody tries to follow New York, so I ain't worried.
I know. That's why you up here trying to be humble. You know you from Harlem World. You know y'all set the trends. You're supposed to stand up
Set
for that.
all the trends. You
That's
know
right.
that.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So so those are those things that are okay. Anything, so here means penetration, the only thing that is forbidden. So we'll stop there, inshallah. I don't know if there's any questions. So we right at the hour mark. If there's any questions, we'll take a couple before we conclude.
I don't have any questions about this particular section at the moment, but I do have a question about a situation. So say like someone they're Muslim, and then I don't believe it or not, child, I don't even like to debate. I find that pretty funny. I don't like to debate, but what do you do when you give someone like a hadith? They give you a hadith, and then you give them a hadith because it's kind of like along the subject because you were speaking about like not understanding the hadiths, and so they give you a hadith, you give them one that kind of elaborates or expands the one that they provided, and then they tell you that the Prophet ﷺ, he ain't say that ain't a real hadith, and it comes from one of the 6 authenticated books. I mean, you're denying Sahih Muslim now, but you just quoted the same a hadith from Sahih Muslim. So what do you take from that? I don't.
What I take from it is that if both parties are neither one of them are hadith scholars, they shouldn't be arguing about no hadith.
Oh, I wasn't arguing.
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying, if a person says that, then the proof is upon the claimant. If you give them a hadith from the Kutub al-Sitta, the 6 canonical collections, and they saying it's not in there, then they have to say that, you know, they have to prove that it's not in there. And if they can't prove they lying, then it's not nobody to be talking. You know, they shouldn't be into the discussion anyway. You know. So,
I had shared the hadith because they made a statement about Juma Mubarak not having any rewards. And I'm like, well, that's not true. So, sister, it does have rewards because it's a dua. It's a dua to your fellow Muslim. You're at, saying blessed Friday, basically. Have a blessed Friday.
yeah.
I said, and I gave the hadith about the innovation, the good innovation being, accepted and rewarded and vice versa. And I'm like, it was like, no, that he did not say that. He did not say that. That is not the words of the Prophet ﷺ. And that
So
didn't come from.
they're meaning that he didn't say the actual term Jumu'ah Mubarak.
No, she was saying that he didn't say the hadith, those words about you being rewarded. He didn't say those things. The actual hadith from Sahih Muslim, 1017 to be exact. The person was saying that those are not his words. That hadith is not correct. And I
Okay.
was just baffled on that. I don't. I
Now you
just
saying
thought
you
about
read
that.
a hadith that says that there's a reward connected to saying it?
No, there was a war that's connected to good bid'ah. You know, it's a war. People think they know everything. Oh, you can't say Juma. Well, I get every Friday. I get tons of people in my inbox email
Yeah.
saying I can't say Juma Mubarak. It's
Yeah.
bid'ah. You're making.
Disregard. Yeah, it's not even giving those people dalil, because really, dalil are for the experts. You know, people talking about dalil is really for the experts. You know, and those people you can't reason with, because I get them too. After you shut them down, it goes away. There's another sister that has a question, but real quick, what about the hadith that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in Bukhari? He said, "Wa kalimatu tayyiba sadaqah," and every good word, a good word is sadaqah. So I asked him, "Is Jumu'ah Mubarak? Is it a good word?" Because nobody said that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to say Jumu'ah Mubarak. If you say it, then this is the reward connected to it. Nobody says that. It's a dua, as you said. And so it's other words that you're saying. May Allah give you a blessed Jumu'ah. And it's short, Jumu'ah Mubarak. No, he didn't say the phrase. But is it a good word or not? Yes. And every good word is sadaqah. And Allah, the Prophet ﷺ said in another hadith, وَكُلُّ مَعْرُوفٍ sadaqah. And every good deed is a charity. Everything that is recognized as good, whether if the Prophet ﷺ said it specifically or not, this is where you have to know rules, because there's also what's called hadath, like customary. Like the Prophet ﷺ never said good morning, right? But if you say good morning, is that a good word?
Yeah.
If you say good morning to your neighbor, that's something that's going on the scale. That's sadaqah. So people who are involved in these, they don't have enough to really discuss it. So just try to avoid even responding to them, because you have to use rational judgment with them, that they're not equipped, because they only know what they've been told. And these people only going to make you mad, and then you end up arguing, and then, you know what I mean? And so I would ignore those kind of people, but they don't know how deep science is to say stuff like that. And none of us do really,
Yeah.
Sister, you had a question, BB Jones?
Yes, Bashara, I have a question. So
Okay,
this
go
is
ahead.
like my first time actually finally getting on here to do a class with you guys.
Oh, mashallah.
Thank you.
How was it for you?
I got like a good 15 minutes into it, so that's what's kind of making me ask the questions, because I don't always remember, just because I don't live in a house full of Muslims, so
May Allah
it's
make
really
it.
hard for me to remember. Plus, I'm about to set it up on my schedule and everything, so I do remember. But I wanted to know, do you upload these classes on YouTube or any other pages?
Yes, we do. We upload it on YouTube. Where are you from, sister?
From Camden, you did my shahada.
I did.
Yeah, I came to you like not too long ago, probably
What,
like a good week, like probably like 2-3 weeks ago. I had came to you,
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Bashara.
Okay. I can't remember offhand, but alhamdulillah, welcome to the class. Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Have you met my daughter Layla?
Uh-huh.
You all have numbers, or do you have a number?
Yeah, that's how I'm in a group chat already. That's how I was able to log into here. Because normally you'll send out the link letting us know what the classes are. And I remembered last week, but you had canceled it for last week.
Okay,
So,
yeah. So I do upload when it finish the recording. We put it in our WhatsApp group and also on our Facebook page. So yeah, it'll be available. So this is our 9th class, and so the other ones you can go back and review, inshallah ta'ala.
okay.
Okay,
That's
we appreciate you coming. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase you in sound iman and righteous actions, and increase us all. I mean, all right, Sister Aziz, this will be the last question before we go.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so I remember the question. I think it was a couple classes ago. We were talking about like touching the private parts, and the question came around like whether a male just like slapped the woman on her rear end, if she had clothes on, and you said that still like invalidated the wudhu.
Yeah, because that's what be like with a sexual kind of undertone.
Okay. So, all right. So what constitutes the private parts? I'm asking because I read somewhere that they said the private parts was anywhere between like the inner parts of the woman's vaginal area, like the labia, and then like the actual anus area. So like if a woman, like if she's lotioning and touching her and she lotions her rear end, does that still invalidate her wudhu?
No,
I
because
read in one of my books somewhere.
no, because because you're touching it, even though it's skin to skin, the lotion is like a barrier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The lotion is like a barrier.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. So there are no other questions, inshallah. We'll end there. We ask Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from us. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa
Walaikum
barakatuh.
assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Shukran, Imam, for your time this morning.
Afwan.
Alaikum salam. Jazakallah khair.